Like, come on now. When you make it to a certain level, it's tend to be people that play with you, whether it's a male or a female. Right now, he just got a female playing with him. The female that's playing with him like that, she already was playing with multiple Caucasian peoples back in her state.
Killed in a shooting, and tonight, loved ones are coming together to remember one of those men. He died in that shooting near 31st and Cameron. Fox 6's Ashley Sears just spoke with his family.
He told his uncle to be safe. His uncle laughed it off and said he always was. That was the last conversation they ever had, because minutes later, police would find both of them shot dead on the floor of a recording studio. And 3 days later, nobody can tell you why. Before we get into how this happened, if you're new here, hit subscribe and tap that bell so you don't miss the next case. And if you want to see more like this, drop a like right now. It genuinely helps this channel keep going. I'm Crime Files, and this is a story that's still unfolding in real time, which means some of what I tell you today might change tomorrow. I'll flag exactly where the facts stop and the unknowns begin. On Monday, August 17th, 2026, at around 3:40 in the afternoon, police in Milwaukee got a call about a shooting near 31st Street and Cameron Avenue, in a neighborhood called Old North. When officers arrived, they found two men inside a recording studio. Both had been shot. Both were pronounced dead right there at the scene. This wasn't some abandoned building or a back alley. This was a place where music got made, a place where people came to create something, not to die. Recording studios are supposed to be safe spaces in the music world. Closed doors, familiar faces, headphones on, beats playing. The kind of place where artists let their guard down because they're surrounded by people they trust. That's part of what makes this so hard to sit with. Whatever happened in that room happened fast. In the middle of the afternoon, in a commercial building, not some late-night corner where you'd expect trouble to find you. The two men were identified by the Milwaukee County Medical Examiner's Office as 33-year-old Quentene Williams and 21-year-old Dequaiseon Evans. To their families, they were sons, brothers, fathers. But to the city of Milwaukee, they were something else too. They were part of a music scene that has been exploding in popularity over the last few years. Williams went by the name Funny Money. Evans went by Lil Sheisty. And if you know anything about Milwaukee hip-hop right now, you know those aren't small names. Let's start with Quentene Williams, because his story is really the heart of this case. Funny Money wasn't some overnight sensation. He was what people in the scene call a workhorse, a guy who had been putting in the work for years, dropping project after project, showing up on other people's songs, becoming a fixture in the community. People describe him as a punchline rapper, someone with a sharp tongue and a good ear for beats, mixing R&B samples with the kind of heavy, groovy production that's become Milwaukee's signature sound, sometimes called low-end. He wasn't the biggest name out of the city, but he was one of the most consistent. When other parts of the local scene were going through rough patches, often because of legal trouble hitting other artists, Funny Money was a guy still dropping tapes, still keeping the momentum going. People in that scene have described him as connective tissue, the guy who showed up on tracks with nearly everyone, the guy who linked up different corners of the community that might not otherwise cross paths. He wasn't chasing a single viral moment. He was building a body of work brick by brick, the long way, the hard way. His catalog tells that story. Back in 2022, he released a project called Don't Talk Too Much, which included a single called Rocky Balboa that a lot of fans point to as one of his best records. Then in 2024, he dropped I Got the Hookup Volume 1, subtitled Big Bucks No Whammies, a nod to the old No Limit Records era of hip-hop, the kind of scrappy, independent hustle that built entire empires out of nothing but grind. Into 2025 and 2026, he kept that same pace, putting out projects like Streets Calling, Uncomparable, and Sorry I Was Trapping, along with an album called Paid But Not Full earlier this year. And just 3 days before he was killed, on August 14th, he released a music video for his newest single, a track called Goldie, I Ain't Lying. 3 days. That's how close this was to just being another chapter in a career that was still very much alive and moving forward. This wasn't a man fading out. This was a man in the middle of one of the most productive stretches of his entire career. But Funny Money's path to music wasn't a straight line, and he never really hid that. In an interview on the Kid L podcast back in December 2025, just months before his death, he opened up about his past. He talked about being in prison and watching other Milwaukee rappers, guys like Larry Bird and Guapo Chapo, start to make real noise in the industry while he was locked up. He said watching them succeed lit something in him. He loved rap, but for a long time he was, in his words, too focused on the street life. At some point, something shifted. He realized he didn't need to fit the image other people had of the city. He knew he was authentic, and he believed people would connect with that if he just gave it a real shot. So he did. That's not a small thing. Deciding at some point in your life, probably not an easy one, that you're going to try to build something different than what was expected of you. He built a career out of that decision. He built a body of work. And it makes losing him this way feel even more like a story that was cut off mid-sentence, right in the middle of improving that decision correct. Now, let's talk about the other man in that studio, Dequaiseon Evans, known as Lil Sheisty. He was only 21 years old, and by every account from his family, he was just getting started. He was a young father of 3 kids, someone family describes as deeply family-oriented, someone who loved music the same way Williams did. His twin sister, Dequaiseon, has been the one speaking to media on his behalf, and the grief in her words is hard to sit with. She said she's been wearing his old jackets just to feel like he's still close to her. She said she's kept listening to his songs just to hear his voice again. Think about what that means, using your brother's music as a way to still hear him talk to you. That's the kind of detail that reminds you these aren't just names in a headline. These are people who left behind a very specific, very real absence in someone's daily life, an empty seat at a table, a phone that doesn't ring anymore. Here's what really pulls this whole story together. Evans wasn't just another rapper who happened to be in that studio at the same time as Funny Money. Family members say Evans looked up to Williams as a mentor. He was there with him that day, recording, learning, building his own name in the scene under someone who'd already put in the years. Think about that relationship for a second. An older artist, someone who'd been through prison and hard times and come out the other side chasing something better, taking a younger guy under his wing, showing him the ropes, vouching for him, probably introducing him around to producers and other artists who could help his career. That's a real bond, the kind that gets built session by session, favor by favor over months or years. And the last conversation Evans had with his own family reflects exactly that same protective instinct, just flowing the other direction, from nephew to uncle instead of uncle to nephew. His nephew, who goes by TJ, told local reporters about the final words he said to his uncle Quentene. He said, "I love you, be safe." And Williams told him back, "I'm always safe." That was it. Those were the last words exchanged. No warning. No sign that anything was wrong. Just an ordinary goodbye between family. The kind of thing said 1,000 times without a second thought. Except this time, it was the last one. There's something almost unbearable about how normal that exchange was. It wasn't a dramatic farewell. It was 2 people who loved each other saying the kind of thing you say on any regular day, never imagining it would be the final thing. So here's where the case gets frustrating, because this is where the answers just aren't there yet. Police say a 28-year-old suspect was arrested in connection with the shooting. But as of right now, that person's name has not been publicly released. No formal charges have been announced. The case has been referred to the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office. But we don't have a criminal complaint laying out what actually happened inside that studio. We don't know what led to the shooting. We don't know if Williams and Evans knew the person accused of pulling the trigger. We don't know if this was random, targeted, or the result of some kind of dispute. Investigators have said publicly that the circumstances leading up to the shooting are still under investigation, and that a motive has not been determined. Even the victim's own family says they don't know what happened. Williams' sister told reporters plainly, "This situation, I don't even know what happened." And Evans' family has said the same thing, that they don't know the circumstances of the shooting or anything about the 28-year-old in custody. That's an uncomfortable place to leave a story, but it's the honest one. I'm not going to sit here and guess at a motive or invent a version of events just to make this feel more complete, because that wouldn't be fair to Williams, to Evans, or to their families. Sometimes the answers come fast. Sometimes they take months. And sometimes, especially in cities like Milwaukee. They never fully come out the way families need them to. What we do know is that police responded quickly enough to make an arrest the same day, which suggests there were witnesses, evidence, or leads that pointed investigators toward a suspect almost immediately. What we don't know is what that evidence actually shows, or what relationship, if any, existed between that suspect and the two men who died. What makes this case sting even more is that it's not an isolated moment. It's part of a pattern that Milwaukee's hip-hop community has been living through again and again, even as that same community has been having what a lot of people call a golden age. For the first time, multiple Milwaukee rappers are signed to real record deals. Music videos and songs from the city are pulling in hundreds of thousands, even millions of views and streams. National outlets like Pitchfork, Rolling Stone, and the New York Times have all taken notice, showering the city's artists with the kind of praise it never used to get. Milwaukee's rap scene, sometimes built around a bouncy, clap-heavy sound the locals call lled, has become one of the more talked-about regional hip-hop movements in the country. And at the exact same time all of that recognition is happening, that same scene keeps getting hit with tragedy. Just last December, two other Milwaukee rappers, Jovan Wilder, known as Jig, and Marcel Hendricks, known as Sully Cell, were shot and killed in a separate double homicide on the city's north side. Back in July of 2025, a well-known rapper and promoter named Antoine Hogans, who went by Tweezy, was killed outside a downtown nightclub in a shooting that also injured several other people. Earlier in 2026, another young Milwaukee rapper, Dequaiseon Evans, was killed in a shooting on the city's north side as well. This is a scene that keeps producing incredible talent, and it keeps losing that talent to gun violence, over and over, even as the rest of the country starts paying attention. At the vigil held for Dequaiseon Evans the day after the shooting, his cousin Trinica Walker said something that's been sticking with people. She said, "We need to change our focus. We need to change our mindset if we want to live." That's not a police statement or a press release. That a family member standing outside, grieving, and basically pleading with an entire community to find a different way forward. Another family member at that same vigil, Shantia Jones, put even more starkly, saying that in their family, over the last couple years, it's been a repeated cycle with their younger generation passing on. It's the kind of statement that comes from someone who has clearly sat through this exact grief before and is watching it happen again, praying out loud that this time, somehow, the cycle actually stops. So where does this leave us? We have two men, one an experienced artist who fought his way out of prison and into a music career he was proud of, when a young father just started to build his own name under that same man's guidance, both gone in the same afternoon, in a place that was supposed to represent creation, not tragedy. We have a suspect in custody, but no name, no charges, and no clear reason why. We have a community that is simultaneously being celebrated on a national stage and burying its own people at a devastating rate, sometimes within the same week that a new project drops or a new milestone gets hit. I want to leave you with a few questions, because this case raises more than it answers right now. What actually happened in the moments before the shots were fired in that studio, in a space that's supposed to be one of the safest places for an artist to be? Was this connected to who these men were as public figures, their success, their visibility, or could it have been something completely separate from music entirely, something personal that had nothing to do with either of their careers? And how many more names does a single city's rap scene have to add to this list before something actually changes? If updates come out on this case, the suspect's identity, the charges, any motive, I'll be covering it. So make sure you're subscribed and that bell is turned on, because I don't want you to miss it. If this story moved you at all, do me a favor and hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and share this with someone who needs to see it. This is Crime Files, and we'll be back with the next one soon.